The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of the municipality of Meaford. Ross, good to have you here today.
Good to be back. Thank you.
Yes, it just seems like yesterday we had you on. Is time flying when we're having fun?
Oh, yes. Not enough time and too many things to accomplish in the allotted time, for sure.
Is that what you're finding as mayor, that it takes up a lot of your time?
I work all day and then I work all night. Honestly, I enjoy it, and I wanted to be fully engaged like this, but it is a lot, and so now and again you just have to take a break. And we got a couple of weeks in, back in the winter. I think we're going to go right from winter to summer, and I hope we don't miss summer. I haven't seen much of spring yet.
Well, they're calling, as we're taping this, they're calling for a frost warning tonight. So, hey, it's still chilly.
It is.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right in. And although spring is here, and although it's sometimes hard to see what's happening in Meaford, if the flowers come out that were planted, the bulbs have come up that's been planted.
I haven't seen flowers yet, but I can tell you that we've been ready for spring for quite a while. And at least now the patios are up on Syke Street, the dining patios, and a lot is going on. I like to call it our restaurant row, and right across the street from that, there's a big project underway. They're building a ramp so that the market square will be fully accessible, and that should be finished quite quickly. And then another project just at the other end of the block, the old band shell, and in later life it was called the Midas Mart, is going to be demolished. The Heritage Committee approved that. There are a lot of fond memories around that building, but unfortunately there is not much of intrinsic heritage value. It was built basically a basement, and then the top was going to be a band shell, but the band shell never really materialized. But there were concerts performed on the deck of that building. And then, as I say, it became the Midas Mart for the Kiwanis Club, and both are gone now in the past. So I hope that maybe there will be a plaque commemorating, some of the things that happened there in the past. But at the end of the day, when this is done, very shortly now, there will be fill put in and sodding. And so we'll be on our way to greening the market square. And I think that's something that it's a part of the vision of this new council, because we believe that this is really a great outdoor performance venue. It's right beside Meaford Hall, which is a splendid indoor performance spot. And it's where, for example, Christmas on the Bay was held this past December. Hugely successful new event, which is coming back again this coming December. And I remember back in the days, because when I did come to Meaford back in 1956, I joined the band. And, I thought I was going to be taught music, and what I was sort of boys to men. I learned manhood and manners.
There's always a backstory to just these things that we do, isn't there?
So there used to be tattoos back in the band tattoos back in the 50s and 60s with drum corps and bands and majorettes from all over Southern Ontario. So I'm afraid those days are again in the past, but there's a lot in the future, I believe, and having the market square greened, I think, is going to be very important to the future of Meaford.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Ross, because I noticed that for example, here in Owen Sound, the River District and the rebuilding of the farmers market has created a really interesting community space where there are concerts. SOSO and Sound is using it, but aside from the farmers market, it's become a 7-day event site for things. There's the water festival. There are all kinds of activities that are happening in that square. I recall a noted local architect telling me, Bob Greenberg was his name, telling me that the one thing that brings the community together is a central gathering point, a square or an open space, or a greensward, as it used to be called in England, or a common in New England. And it sounds like these kinds of things are just so central to bringing people together, as you're finding in Meaford.
Yep. Something else that's going to be new this year is, and we're just dealing with this at Monday's council meeting coming up, the Ontario Musicians Cooperative Inc. Is an organization that has been set up to try and help grow lifelong sustainable careers in music and the arts for performers and for people who do the business of culture. And they're funded through the Ontario Trillium Foundation, the Canada Council for the Arts, and a number of other organizations. And the municipality of Meaford will probably kick in about $2,000 in expenses. But what we are going to have is we're going to have all kinds of young performers who will, come out and show up at many of our events, and at places like the Market Square, for example, or the Harbor. And I think that's going to add a lot. And then another thing we have this year, food trucks at the Harbor, where previously you couldn't buy a cup of coffee, a beer, or an ice cream cone. You're going to be able to buy a burger or chips or whatever. And same at Memorial Park, which is another very popular destination in Meaford, which lacked, a food outlet. So those are all some good things that are coming up. And it won't be long, and you'll see the chairs out and the flower boxes blooming, I hope.
Well, when you mentioned food trucks, I had this sound of Homer Simpson going, "Oh, food," in my brain. Food trucks are a great opportunity for local culinary expertise, but also it's for people to try different foods. And that's been a real, how shall I say it? It's been a real innovation in our culture, because where you see a good food truck, you'll see lots of people.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. And I remember not too long ago when municipalities would get all uptight about licensing food trucks, but they seem to have found their niche.
They have. Obviously, we don't want to puncture the success of bricks and mortar restaurants. And there are more coming, by the way, including one that I know is going to be really, really exciting. And that is, the old Meaford Fire Hall right behind Meaford Hall, that is going to become a restaurant as well. And although these things take time, I've known about it for quite a while, but it is starting to move through the process, and I hope it won't be all that long, and we'll see that, which will be a tremendous draw.
To be sure, and let's hope that they're able to find the staff, and that and they become a major drawing card to downtown Meaford.
I think they will.
Great, that's great. Now, one of the things that the common ground that we have, believe it or not, there is actually a set of some common ground across Grey Bruce, and that is STRs, or short-term accommodations. I kid you not. With every local politician that I have on Politically Speaking, I say, okay, what are you doing about STRs? And they've all got a different story. So what's Meaford's story, Ross?
Well, our story, the good news is, the really good news is that it's on our agenda for this coming Monday. And here's my printout of the agenda. and see what it says here. Yeah, this is from our CAO, a recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford adopt the short-term rental accommodation project charter. That means we're another inch closer to being where we want to be. We're certainly not there yet, but we decided going back very early in the term, January and February, we spent a lot of time talking about our priorities, and we determined that we need staff to help us achieve any of these things, and they asked us to buy into their idea of developing a project charter for each one of the initiatives that we wanted to take. And what I like, these are not just sort of cell lines or slogans, because we have our pillars. We know, the things that we're trying to, the broad stroke directions we want to go in. But we wanted some actual brick and mortar type or hard and fast projects that we could, jump into and actually accomplish something quite quickly. And so at the top of our list was the business of the short-term rentals and their regulation. But so now the project charter, I've got to read this. I glanced over it last night. It wasn't 300 pages, but it wasn't easy reading either. And and a lot of charts, because they're trying to sell us on the idea of how you do a charter. And it's designed so that it's foolproof. Everybody knows from the get-go exactly what you're setting out to do, what you're setting out not to do, what's fair, what's foul, what are the costs, what are the risks, all those things. And somewhere in there, I'm going to find out how long this is going to take us and whether it's really exactly what we're looking for. And I just haven't had the time to go into that fine print, into those, charts and really discern what staff is, suggesting to us. But the one thing I will say is there are lots of examples of RTRs right now. The town of Blue Mountains, they've had a plan like for I want to say the best part of 15 years, and they spent the last 2 years updating and refining it. And that gives you an idea. If you already have something that is working reasonably well and you're setting about to improve it, and it takes 2 years to do that, getting a totally new ground up version is not going to be something you do maybe in 6 months or a year. But I think it's pretty clear we will have something on the books for this, I want to say the summer of 2024.
Yeah, you make a good point, Ross, about the town of Blue Mountains. I have interviewed the mayor and the deputy mayor, and they actually told us their benchmark for success. And it was the deputy mayor who said, and he's been working on this for quite a number of years with the municipality. He said, I measure success by the number of phone calls I receive in the middle of the night. And there have been very few. With this most recent iteration, he said, we think we've got something that works because the complaints have dropped off hugely.
And here's the thing, David, we cannot, much and all as we want to solve the problems that short-term rentals have created, we cannot come up with something and say, this is it, take it or leave it, because if we vote on it, that's what people have, until they change councils or demand that we change it, nothing would happen. But so it's very, very important that we do have some public consultation, and we want to be sure that because there are people on both sides of this, situation with excellent points and arguments. So we have to hear those and we have to weigh them and we have to decide what is for me for the best course of action. I do believe that we will do something that is quite close to what is being done by our neighbors, like because Owen Sound and Georgian Bluffs are both working on this right now. I believe Grey Highlands already, at least, or is it West Grey? One of them has already got a bylaw in place too. But I think we just have to take the time to do it right. And the good news is, though, that we are in the process. We're working on it now, and we we worked hard back in January and February to make sure that staff knew this is our number one priority. This is for the property owners who are affected by the worst examples of STRs. Those people deserve relief, and we're working as quickly as humanly possible to do it. And but we don't want to do something and have to go back and repair it in short order. It's like, you don't dig up, the water mains this year if you know that in 2 years you're also going to do the sewers,
Yeah, I think that you make a very valid point. And Georgian Bluffs is at a different stage. They are doing a survey. This is their survey year. They're going to try and figure out, okay, they were not sure what the scope of the STR issue is in that municipality. So they said, we're going to survey it. And they invite people to call in with complaints and so on. Town of Blue Mountains said that they did a lot of consultation, as you have mentioned, with all the stakeholders, with property owners, and with the business, with the industry, and what they came up with was something that seems to have met everyone's needs. So hopefully you will have the same kind of end result. I was just going to say, though, that okay, if this is implemented, let's surely are purely out of conjecture, and hopefully it will work. 2024, summer 2024, you'll have about 2 years before the next municipal election in 2026. So it may not be, you or this council who does a review of it. It might be the next council to give it a fair shot. It's a work in progress. What I'm really saying, it's a work in progress.
Yes,
it cannot be locked in stone.
No, and things change all the time. So we will definitely keep it. But it's really important that we get something done, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Good. So, hey, we'll just add that to the list of things we will talk about next time we talk.
Sure.
I keep this mental list, Ross, of each of the municipalities, Oh, by the way, but STRs, as I said at the opening of this conversation, talking about STRs is a guaranteed common agenda item for every politician on this show, and every politician, I think, in Grey Bruce. It's one of those things that we are doing. And actually, have you had any has there been any thought about provincial regulation at all of STRs? I know that in Quebec, with a recent fire in Montreal, the province stepped in and said, okay, we're going to be licensing. We will do the licensing, not municipalities, because of some bylaw inadequacies in that province. Have you heard of those kinds of conversations in this province yet?
I haven't. What I would say is that the Southern Georgian Bay area is well behind the curve, and that there are, I think, good bylaws operating in Eastern Ontario and Southwestern Ontario, and in Haliburton and Muskoka and so on. We're late to the table on this, but I think it's partly because there's maybe more space here. The industry wasn't as developed here to that degree, and it's only I hear very often staff say, well, if we had complaints, we would be pushing you to do something, but we haven't really had a lot of complaints. Well, as councillors, we've had a lot of complaints, and so I believe that the time is now. And I think the good news is that we do have all these, templates to draw on, and I think we have one staff member who's really well versed in this project charter approach to things. And I think it makes sense for us to do this. So what we're trying to do is get to a bylaw that will satisfy a majority of people on both sides of the equation and do it as relatively quickly as you can. It could be done faster, but if you leave out the consultation component, if you don't engage the community, and we have heard a lot from the people whose ox has been gored. We have not heard that much yet from the people who are in the business, and I know a few of them, and these people rely very heavily on being able to let out a room or two of their home on a short-term basis. So we just want to be sure that we do it as best we can, and I do believe that it will conform pretty closely to a norm that is working in our area and in other places too.
Good. Well, speaking of public engagement, one of the things that politicians I won't say complain about, that they mention is, hey, there's nobody sitting in front of us in the gallery. But that's not true in Meaford, is it?
We're very fortunate to have a very, very engaged community. I'm interested that Owen Sound is trying to get more engagement. Our ratepayers are very engaged, and they're very constructive too. And we did go through an episode just recently where we had a full house. I said, if we knowed you were coming, we would have baked it. No, we would have rented the hall, because there's a lot more seating than there is in our chambers on the 7th line. But it was a big crowd, and I don't blame them. People were quite exercised because it was being recommended that we sell a road allowance, and that's been done before, and I'm not really sure. I think at one time we asked staff to give us a really serious pros and cons. Should we ever sell a road allowance, or when is it a good idea, and so on. I don't think that report ever materialized, but what I will say is, in this case, the proponent wants to utilize a road allowance that is on the waterfront, and there are a number of ratepayers who either would lose access to their wells or their septic systems to service them, or even to their driveway. And a good number of people who say, this is where I go swimming. This is where I take my family. This is our beach, and so I think there's good reasons to listen to these people. On the other side of the coin, the proponent who wants to utilize this property wants to draw water from Georgian Bay, and it's to service an immense orchard. You might call it an industrial orchard, or it's definitely a high-tech orchard on the west end of Meaford, and it's on the north side of Highway 26, many acres. And I didn't really understand what was going on there until this episode, and then I learned in talking to the manager there that Southern Ontario could produce all the apples we need for our own Southern Ontario market. But there's always the danger of nights just like tonight is going to be frost. I think it was only 3 degrees when the last time I looked out today, and clearly there will be frost tonight. And so they need water, because they're telling us that they could really supply all of Southern Ontario's apple needs if they weren't always fighting the elements and in danger of losing an entire season's crop. You know what I mean? A very special soil in that area, and a microclimate that favors the apple industry. And Meaford has been a source of, wonderful apples for, many, many decades. I personally, and I'm sure all of council is anxious to see this operation succeed, but it can't be at the cost of vital concerns of so many ratepayers. And so we deferred the issue until the proponent has an opportunity to investigate other locations, or what ways could he utilize the property but mitigate their concerns. And maybe that can be done and maybe it can't. But I think the council is always interested in ensuring that ratepayers are protected.
This sounds like one of those Solomon's choice decisions where you've got two very good proponents, or sets of principles, and this is, I'm going to use a cliche here, this is what you get paid the big bucks to decide.
and I think that we took a page from Solomon and have deferred his decision until we have better options.
Yeah, and that's fair. That is exactly what municipal councils are have to attempt to do, is find out, how can we make this work? And sometimes you can't, but mostly let's hope you can. Yes. Yeah, I've had, and the nature of apple orchards has changed too. They were where we used to have tall trees with lots of bushing out. They're now basically grapevines. They look like a grapevine, and this is a very different form of horticulture.
Yes, it's very different, and I think that this area can play a really important economic role. It's one of the main strengths that we have, and we need to support it and encourage it. Because what I also learned is that there are prospects for more industry and growth as a result. Because I understand, we don't do any processing here of any account, which is something that we could be doing, and we don't have enough cold storage facilities either. So there's I'm a great believer in work on the industry you have, or the client that you have. Don't go shopping for clients until you've satisfied the ones you have, or otherwise it's a losing game.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because there has been large apple storage along the shore, certainly along the railway lines, and further to the east in Thornbury, Clarksburg, there has been apple storage there. But we did, and this is going back probably 15 years. There has been apple processing done here in Meaford. And what they did, and the reason is I know this, is a family member was the manager of the operation. They actually took the apples and turned them and juiced them. And there were big tankers that would take the juice to Quebec for final processing. And it was one of the big Quebec manufacturers that took all the apples we could grow and we could turn to juice.
Yeah, I think that this area, like the whole world has been turned upside down. You can do any job in the world from any place in the world as long as you have connectivity. And so people can live or work wherever they like. And it's the same. I think that, we've seen a complete shift. Manufacturing is pretty much something that doesn't happen on this side of the world anymore. But on the other hand, there are opportunities. We have to develop those. And I think it will be a mix. I can see Meaford, for example, benefiting from an industry that predates the World War I. And at the same time, I can see us benefiting from industries that were never heard of even 10 years ago.
Absolutely, Ross. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and come back, because I got a lot more on my list.
Good.
Friends, I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking, and we will be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
You're watching Rogers TV.
My Uncle Cheney was one of over 150,000 Indigenous children that were taken to residential schools between the 1800s and 1996. My uncle ran away from school wanting to get home to his mom and dad, and sadly he didn't make it and died of exposure. When Gord Downey found out about my late Uncle Cheney's story, he wrote Secret Path, a series of poems that became an album, then a graphic novel, a documentary, and a concert. Gord met my family, and together we formed the Gord Downey and Cheney Winjack Fund. Together, we are sharing Secret Path and other reconciliation resources with legacy schools, setting up legacy spaces across Canada, and hosting events like Secret Path Week to inspire all Canadians to engage in reconciliation. Before he left us, Gord asked us all to do something.
You're going to figure it out.
Will you join us? Together, we can make Canada a better place.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of the municipality of Meaford. Now say that 10 times fast. Anyway, I won't say it 10 times fast because we've got quite a long list of stuff to cover yet. Anyway, let's come back to actually something who are people that are regular viewers of the show will remember. I had the people from the Grey Bruce Healthcare Coalition on the show last week, and we talked about their upcoming referendum, but we did mention the fact that they had spoken to Meaford Council. And Ross, what happened? How happened in that presentation?
Well, it was very interesting. I thought she gave a really eye-opening account of Bill 60 and what it all might entail. And to be honest with you, I've been so busy, focused on affairs in Meaford that this one, and we've had Bill 23 and we've had, lots of surprises, the Greenbelt and all these problems with the Ford government. I had no idea until she spoke to us. And then she did send us a quite a thorough analysis of Bill 60. And when I read that, I really got a little bit exercised. Have you read it? Her
Yes,
analysis?
I have. I have read their analysis of it. It certainly causes concern.
Yeah, when is a surgeon not a surgeon? when is a nurse not a nurse? Well, when you're when somebody says you're a nurse and they're part of the Tory cabinet.
Oh, it's a very interesting document, that is to be sure. So,
not only that, I believe from what I read, they have amended 26 or 27 other pieces of legislation so that it all conforms to this new scenario where it's a little bit like these new clinics can be headed by somebody who is not really involved in the medical field at all, and it's quite surprising, quite concerning to say the least. And I don't like the fact that once this is operative, it's totally outside of the Freedom of Information Act. It will be impossible to really discern anything that you would like to or need to know about all these things. Probably totally impossible to sue anyone, as you can, if you are dealt with in a public hospital or by a physician or surgeon, or I just think it's scary that nobody is really talking about it. Nobody seems very concerned, And I certainly agreed with Nora. She said that her grandfather had told her as a young person that if you don't pay attention to what's going on, sooner or later something will happen, and you will lose what you had. And this looks to me very much it's not like the idea that we're going to close your hospital. It's a little bit like what has been happening, that we have hospitals that their facilities are only being partially used because of a lack of staff. Well, either they're going to take the staff from our existing facilities to run these clinics, or they just say, "You're now a nurse, you're now a surgeon, you're now a physician," because that's what the actual act provides for.
And the other thing is that you make a good point about accountability, because as I read the documentation, what I discover is that things we will have no access to things like salaries. We will not have access to audited financial statements. I mean, those are, if it's a private concern that's running it, that's proprietary information. We can't let the public know. And well, it's a concern to be sure.
It is.
I want to be clear, Ross, that it's Nora Beattie who is the person that was presenting, and she lives in Meaford, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And I think she's bitten off a lot here. I know that she's tried to organize this. I call it a petition, not a vote. Like yes, you do vote, but it has no force as a vote. But it is like a petition. But what I like about it is it's different. It is, and especially if she's able to develop the number of votes per se that they want to accomplish, then it could perhaps have some influence on the government. So far, I haven't seen anything really changing. Like the municipalities have had a lot to digest in some of the planning moves. And you know what? We've been put on notice that there are changes coming with respect to environmental protection. And I'm thinking, that we're going to loosen up those rules. It makes you think of Walkerton, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other parallel issue here with this vote or straw poll or whatever you want to call it, is that one of the driving forces in Grey Bruce, of course, is the closure of the Chesley ER. And that's driving a lot of people to the west of us over in Bruce County and in southern Grey who make use of that hospital. And then further south, the closure of the ER in Wingham. And then all we need to do is look to the east. As of June 1, the hospital in Minden is closing its ER. And all our small rural hospitals are in a bit of a pickle. And so,
it's like we fought so hard to keep them, and I think we must be going back 20 years, maybe
25.
25 years. Okay, so was I.
I was there.
I remember that we had more people in the Meaford Arena than was actually safe. I mean, we were hanging from the rafters, and people were all there by choice. Trying to make the point that we value this hospital. We've paid for it with our blood, sweat, and tears and money. You know what I mean? So it's and it's almost as if, with the stroke of a pen, they're able to go take us right back to that without actually closing anything. They'll just die a natural death, unable, like having to close because there's not staff for it and so on. And that is so concerning. And then to me, there are so many ways that a government could address the need for more practitioners, for more doctors. It's not that, there aren't good ideas out there. I don't find any good ideas in what I'm reading here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it says a lot, and the poll is happening at the end of May, and so
which is almost here.
Almost here, but I'm sure we'll all be watching with great interest to see what the results are. They'll come out in, I think, the last part of May, first week of June. Those results will be made public. Well, let's move on to summer stuff, because summer is, dare I say it, supposed to be almost here.
Yeah.
I'm being very cautious here. You've got a new operator for the pool.
Yes, we have, and we're very, very fortunate that the YMCA has been willing to help us navigate some pretty stormy waters, even in a little swimming pool.
Yes, because there's a lot of regulation with swimming pools these days, and the infrastructure required is significant. Not to mention things like lifeguards.
Yes, and the thing about it is we just did not have enough lifeguards and couldn't get them on time. So kudos to the Owen Sound YMCA. I think it's we're more than happy to work out this agreement with them and appreciate their help. And it's my hope that somewhere not that far into the future, the Blue Dolphin pool will be replaced by something that has a roof over it. But that will depend on how a lot of things unfold. I think Meaford's future is extremely bright, and I'm not worried in the least. But I just think that in the meantime, it would be terrible not to have swimming lessons for the kids this summer, not to have the pool open when it's there, and still kudos to our staff. That pool is certainly near the end of its life cycle. And they have done a great job of keeping it up to date and in good repair. So the last thing we need to see is a closing for want of lifeguards.
Sure. Well, let's hope it'll be a good summer with lots of sun and lots of swimming.
And let me just say, prices have gone up largely because that's why has to do this in a way that it's not losing money. But the thing about it is probably our rates are on the low side. We do have the ability to help those who need help to utilize this facility. And so that will be done.
Good. Well, what else is happening this summer in Meaford? Other events?
There's a ton of events. Last year we had a great event on our main street. It was called Summerfest, and I think it was around Civic Holiday weekend. And it was just blew everybody out of the water because we had great weather for it. And we had a poutine competition with the restaurants, and just so many great things. Like I haven't seen our sidewalks so full of people as I did, and I love to tell this story. We have a store on the main street that a Crystal Dragon. Our grands and great grands were in that store. We could not get them out of it, and when we did, they just said, "Why doesn't Guelph have anything like that?" I've told that story to the proprietor, and he says, "Well, he says that's where I started." Well, but it's a great store. It just, for example, I find things. I collect die-cast cars. So, There
you go.
And he's got everything from die-cast to, obviously I'm interested in old radios and phonographs and records, and he's got all that kind of stuff and a million other things. It's just an emporium of, anything and everything. So, Meaford is, I think, having quite a resurgence. And I don't know if you're aware of this, David, but we did actually, hate to say it this way, but euthanized our BIA because there's a better alternative, I think. Most of the people in the BIA, I think, felt that, every year I get my flower pot on the lamppost and I keep paying more taxes than other people because I'm in the BIA. I can understand the frustration. So we're switching it to a Main Streets organization, and I'm no expert on this, but I'm told that across the states and in other provinces, the Main Street organizations have been fundamental in revitalizing downtowns. It's more events oriented than other things, but it can also be used to, like our SIP grants, to help revitalize buildings and so forth. So I'm looking forward to just a different approach with this organization this summer, and it's going to take us a couple of years to ramp it up. And so at this stage, our staff is actually playing a larger role than is really, I think, appropriate, but that will gradually change. And you know what? Just like the Crystal Dragon, we are having so many new businesses arriving in Meaford. And I think you've heard that we have a new fresh market right on the main street now. There was so much angst amongst people living in downtown Meaford. It's a long walk. We have a wonderful supermarket, but it's a long uphill walk to it. And if you don't have transportation, that it's not easy. And to their credit too, this market features so many things that you would not normally find in your grocery store. It's a little bit of a bakery, a little bit of a deli, a little bit of of everything, really. And in fact, I was talking to one consultant who was visiting Meaford, and he said, I was in there the other night, and he said, it just put me in mind of what I would expect to see in downtown Toronto.
There you go. There you go. I think the other thing that's coming back over the summer is scarecrow invasion. Now, it came back last year, but it's back. It looks like, from what I've seen, it's going to be back in full force.
They actually decided to disband and not to carry it forward at a point. And I want to say this was maybe around September of last year, when they were, begging for directors, because that was the problem. It reached, I think they celebrated 25 years, and it was a huge success, the last one. But the difficulty was that they didn't have the depth of management that they needed. And so I felt very, very confident that it wouldn't take long if the word got out. The right people would step forward, and they have. And that's such a relief, really. So, yeah, I think we're going to have a terrific scarecrow invasion. It'll probably be different than others, but it's the next, the turning of the page, the new guard. I'm sure it'll be awesome.
Well, I just noticed an ad for it today, in fact, where they're going to have workshops with students in May and June, and community workshops to build scarecrows in August. And the theme, I gather, is a pirate invasion.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds really interesting. Sounds like it's going to be
perfect for a harbor town.
Absolutely. Maybe they'll get the mayor to talk like a pirate.
However, what I can tell you is that they are striving to be more environmentally friendly, and the biggest problem in previous years was the volume of scarecrows that ended up in the dump, and so I think they're trying to rectify that problem. And also, I know they're working on things that'll be new and different. And then I'm hoping they will also be among the groups and the various sponsors of events in Meaford that will be welcoming the CAO and I with open arms in a few months, because on our agenda for Monday's meeting is a proposal of how to start preparing for the sesquicentennial of urban Meaford. And that's in 2024. And the idea is that the best way to have a huge celebration is to have each and every one of the big celebrations that we have each year, of which there are, as you know, a good number, have each of them tip the hat to our sesquicentennial as part of what they're doing. And so,
lest anyone not have taken Latin in grade 10 or grade 11, sesquicentennial is the what?
150th.
Ah, okay. Right.
Meaford, the town of Meaford was incorporated in 1874. And I remember our centennial in 1974. It was huge. It was a wonderful event. And now here we are 50 years later, ready to celebrate a sesquicentennial. And at any rate, I should read you the motion if I can find it here, because it's pretty cool. But where is it? Well, anyway, the motion is, or the recommendation is that the mayor and the CAO join together and solicit from the groups and organizations that put on events in Meaford their cooperation in also celebrating the sesquicentennial. And I think this will be of interest in throughout the whole of the municipality. We've had a wonderful thing happen, and it's all on the agenda for this coming Monday. And that is that we have a beautiful little park in Meaford that has a splash pad right on the shoreline. It's McCarroll Park. And the splash pad is sort of near the end of its life cycle. And so we had one of these community meetings a year or so ago where we were presented with plans for an updating of the park, and some great plans, but it's been put off until such times as the funds are available. Well, the Optimist Club of Sydenham has come forward, and they're offering to supply a new splash pad, and it's just a phenomenal gesture. And these same people did a wonderful job at Highview Park, where they put in a playground specially designed for accessibility challenges. Amazing idea. And so that has been a big success, and I'm sure that they will do a great job helping us. And it's sort of our job as Meaford Council to commit to getting this new splash pad built and then the park back in business, so that we can get because I think there's Trillium Fund funding as well. So,
well, that should be great. One of those other things we'll just put on the agenda, and we'll get an update next time you're on. Sounds like a really exciting idea and an exciting project. Good to see. Well, let's shift things a little bit. You have been, as mayor, you're also a member of Grey County Council, the upper tier, as we call it here. Some in other parts, the upper tier municipalities, the upper tier level of governance has been in the news a lot in the last couple of weeks. But what's your take on how things are going at Grey County Council? What have you noticed that's new and different?
Well, I covered county council as a cub reporter. I'm talking, the 1970s and 80s, and I always enjoyed it, and I always thought it was interesting. The difference. There's a lot of camaraderie, a lot of kidding, a lot of because you've got people, in Grey County all the way from Georgian Bluffs down to Southgate. And there's a total of 9 municipalities. I've sometimes been a critic of the two-tier system. It is not a cheap date. It's expensive, but you've got to understand that the upper tier provides services that are, in many ways, I think it's provincial money that's being spent, but it's being spent by local people who live in the community and who, so. And I've gradually seen that I'm on the community service committee, which is the only committee I'm on at the moment, because I'm possibly busy as mayor over here. But it's like a huge reality check, because you get a window on all of the warts and all of the blemishes of at the first tier level, because we're not dealing like with social services at the first tier level, but at the second tier level they are. And you can see all of the issues. You mentioned SOS Owen Sound. Do you know, I think they had over 160 people attend this past week in Owen Sound. And I think I want to say something on the order of 200 people had a pizza lunch. And obviously they're doing some amazing things, and there's great need. And I think that the county provides that. And then the other thing I would tell you is that I really hope that I've only got 4 years here, and I really hope to move the needle on growth and development in the municipality of Meaford. I want Meaford to be a place where kids don't have to wait till they retire to come home. I'd like it to be a place where kids can, as I say, you can work anywhere if you like with a computer. And I think more people would live in Meaford if there were better opportunities. And that will only come through growth and development. And what I will tell you is that we don't have the resources to really do much. And the county has some very good resources. They do. And they have some very smart, well-connected people. And I'm finding they're extremely helpful. And I'm hoping that with their help, we will be able to make a difference in this 4-year term.
That's good to hear, because actually I've got the warden. The warden is my next guest on my next show. And we will be talking about housing. So it's
he is a mover and a shaker. And believe me, things are really happening in Southgate. They are. It's literally exploding. And the warden and I have had some interesting conversations about that. But it will be, maybe we were critical of the 2-tier system of government, but as you say, they do a lot for all of us right across the region. And it's important to have we can be very parochial, as you know, all of us, and at least taking that and really I was mentored by Bill Hawkins, who was Mr. CFOS, and honestly he had a Grey Bruce, that was his wheelhouse, Grey Bruce, and that's really we're living, side by side here. And I think, for example, the school boards have done a good thing in having one organization operating a 2-county system. I don't always agree with the way they run it, but I certainly think that that's, the best of all possible worlds, really. And maybe the day will come that we'll see that. But in the meantime, I think that the system, you couldn't really have a successful, it would make more sense, in other words, to have the second tier be the base level of government, as opposed to, perpetuating municipalities of the size of Meaford. Now, Meaford is
with that, Ross, I got to cut you off because we're out of time.
Well,
as young radio man,
I know. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you, Ross Kentner, for being a part of Politically Speaking. Friends, I'm David Shearman, and yes, we'll talk again.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Looking for the best way to get the Major League Baseball games you want to watch? Rogers Super Sports Pack has you covered. With MLB Extra Innings, you'll have a premium ticket to